this is about the depth of color I like going to with my roux. Didn't show you the whole roux making video because y'all have seen it in some of my other ones. I'm going to take this roux and put it in this pot, and then I'll start mixing up the other ingredients for a chicken and sausage gumbo here in a sec. Alright, so what we've got here is I've got a roux in the bottom of this pot, this big gumbo pot. I'm going to turn me some heat on here to about simmer. I just made the roux in a black iron skillet. I don't do that in the big pot. I do that in a black iron skillet. Then what I'm going to do once I get this back to hot is I'm going to add the Trinity. And in South Louisiana, the Trinity is always onions, bell pepper, and celery. And I'm going to cook this down till it starts getting a little cooked down, a little clear onions. And then what we'll end up doing is adding our okra, and we'll come in and we'll add our chicken stock. Yesterday, I took a bunch of not drumettes, but second joints and drumsticks, and balled them down and saved that broth to put in here as our stock. Whereas with a seafood gumbo, we use stock. We typically boil the shells and the heads of the shrimp to make our stock for a seafood gumbo. For a chicken and sausage gumbo, we're going to be using chicken broth. So, without further ado, let's add in some onions and some bell peppers and some celery and get this going down in that roux till they start looking like food and not just a bunch of chopped up veggies. That was 3 bell peppers and 3 onions and I don't know, whatever a good handful of celery stalks was. That's how much I put in there. I went ahead to stop that roux from cooking on the bottom and put one of my pints of chicken stock in there so that it doesn't scorch on the bottom, and when that comes up to a good simmer, that'll cook those veggies down. While I'm doing that, cutting up my savoirs. This is a Cajun sausage savoirs. They make that over there in Opelousas. A good Cajun sausage. I got 4 packs of this yesterday. She cooks a gumbo. Cooks a mighty rag gumbo. Alright, now that I got my hard veggies are starting to get kind of cooked down, I'm going to go ahead and add my okra, because it ain't a gumbo without okra. Get that started in there. Let that cook down a little bit more before I start adding more stock. And then I'm going to come back and add that Savoy sausage and the chicken that I picked yesterday after I add more stock in there. Well, I put that stock in, it's going to cool it down. And that's the difference of putting your stock in the fridge and then canning your stock. And if you get that suction and it pops that thing down, you can just leave it on the counter overnight. And put the lid on, let this get back heated back up. Alright, now that I got a pretty good simmer going on this, got all my veggies in there and cooked the way I want, I'm going to cool that pot down with some of this cold sausage here. Now I'm going to let this cook in with the chicken and the sausage to mix that flavor into the profile with all the veggies and the roux. And at that point, I start tasting to make sure I got my flavor the way I want. And what I'll use is I've got a Creole seasoning here that I'll use for spice and a little filet, gumbo filet. So let's let this cook down some and we'll test it here in a little bit. Then eventually I got to get in and start making my rice. Back at it again, let's see. Starting to look like a gumbo. Not quite as thick as a seafood gumbo, but like I always do my testing. Get me a little bit, put it in my tasting spoon. That's pretty dang good. Gonna add a little Cajun seasoning. And this is all I do. You know, a little Cajun seasoning in there. Little filet. Stir it in, let it cook down a little bit more. Taste it, see if I need to add more. see what else I need to add. I don't have any hard, fast rules other than using a good Creole seasoning or Cajun seasoning, using a good filet, and pretty much want the flavor of the chicken and the sausage to be what makes this gumbo its flavor profile of a good chicken sausage gumbo. And it never hurts when you put that good Savoie roux in there. Or Savoie, that was my roux, it was Savoie sausage. But Savoie does make a jarred roux. But that's cheating if you're making a gumbo, FYI. Flavors melding together. I ain't hating that. Alright, I got some water boiling back here. Time to put in my rice. I don't know if you can tell, but that rice was wet. I wash my rice. Get all that starch off so it doesn't stick much. I'm on an undisturbed boil. There it is, coming right back to a boil, so I'm going to go down to low. I'm going to cover this and let that cook for 20 minutes.